Hi, this is Dr. Alexandra Reed with the National Animal Disease Traceability and Veterinary Accreditation Center, and this is the FY21 Animal Disease Traceability Cooperative Agreement webinar training. In 2018, USDA established four overarching goals to advance ADT. First, to enhance the electronic sharing of data among federal and state animal health officials, veterinarians, and industry, including sharing with the Federal Animal Health Events Repository, or AHER. Second, to increase the use of electronic ID tags for animals requiring individual identification in order to make the transmission of data more efficient. Third, to enhance the ability to track animals from birth to slaughter through a system that allows tracking data points to be connected. And fourth, to elevate the discussion with states and industry to work toward a system where animal health certificates are electronically transmitted from private veterinarians to state animal health officials. So ADT is a performance-based program designed to measure outcomes that will document successful advancement of ADT. In prior cooperative agreement years, the traceability performance measures, or TPMs, and supplementary national priority traces, or NPTs, have primarily been used to measure and document this progress. Beginning last year in FY 2020, the traditional TPMs administered by VS field staff were entirely replaced with NPTs administered by VS ADT program staff. This allows a more accurate measure of tracing capability while reducing the overall amount of work for our state partners. The NPTs completed by ADT recipients continue to reflect tracing capabilities based on the previously defined 4 trace performance measures. Updated guidelines provided for the administration and completion of NPTs must be followed to maintain eligibility for reimbursement of expenditures. So recipients must include specific activities that they will undertake in their annual cooperative agreement work plan to support the following 6 activities. First, national priority traces. So recipients should provide an overview of how they will administer traces to complete the assigned number of NPTs in the Emergency Management Response System 2, or EMERS 2. States that had TPM values below the acceptable rating category for elapsed time and/or percent successfully completed in the 6-year comparison, or the 2019 cooperative agreement period, shall identify actions or activities they will implement to improve key tracing capabilities. The state's 2019 TPM rating report is to be used to determine which TPMs are applicable for this work plan requirement. Also, recipients should note that if they identify potential compliance issues in the course of administering NPTs, they should report that enforcement action taken to their AVIC for inclusion in the VS Quarterly ADT Enforcement Action Summary Report. The second activity is administration of official ID devices. So recipients must include activities that support and advance official identification and record keeping for the distribution of official ear tags in their quarterly and final accomplishment reports. Advancement of ADT requires activities that will make electronic information more readily available. Technology such as radio frequency identification, RFID tags, readers, and associated electronic interstate movement documentation should be given high priority in the work plan and should include a description of how ADT funding is to be applied to increase use of RFID devices. So specifically, recipients should explain how official identification devices will be made available to producers, and plans for increasing the use of official RFID tags and reading devices, as well as how those tags will be read and how that data will be collected. The recipient should also explain how they are maintaining records of official identification devices distributed and/or applied to ensure timely retrieval of such records when needed, including devices administered through accredited veterinarians, markets, tagging sites, etc. So recipients should see the ADT Cooperative Agreement Workbook quarterly reporting tabs to report the number and type of official identification devices distributed and/or applied. So the next slide is a snapshot of the official identification device chart, which is located in the ADT Cooperative Agreement Workbook quarterly reporting tab. And this is where you would go ahead and record the number and type of official identification devices distributed and/or applied, as well as the species that they were applied to. So the third activity is information sharing. So sharing information quickly and effectively will help APHIS and its recipients respond to animal disease events and make ADT successful. So the collection and storage of electronic records, along with the ability to share that information, is critical. Therefore, all recipients must adhere to defined data elements for official identification and interstate movement information in accordance with accepted data standards, i.e. ISO 111784 and USAHA Electronic Interstate Certificate of Veterinary Inspection, or ECVI XML schema. So integration of systems and/or communication processes to support efficient data sharing options must also be documented in the work plan, as well as documentation of the need to enhance any existing system to utilize recognized standards for sharing data. For instance, developing the ability to send or receive the USAHA ECVI Data Exchange Standard XML message. So to kind of elaborate further, recipients should explain what information systems are being used to support traceability and describe the process and in what format APHIS and other states will be provided access to the data when needed. Recipients must include a description of systems utilized for the distribution of official identification, program disease, and movement record keeping. So contributing summary data from state systems like USA HERDS or Core 1 to AHER is a high priority for ADT. Therefore, states should work with VS counterparts to develop a plan for sharing key data elements, including tag number, date, event type, state prem ID, and system holding data with AHER from their system that supports traceability, including timelines for implementation of that integration. And also, recipients who have developed or obtained their own information systems should explain how their systems are aligned with established data and communication interfaces to ensure compatibility of information systems moving forward. The fourth activity is electronic records. So in addition to the key elements noted in the ADT roadmaps, activities to increase the volume of electronic records that optimize the searchability of potential ADT data should be described. Priority areas to consider include distribution records, tags applied records of official identification devices, ICVIs, and other sources deemed applicable for the recipient, such as data from bovine brucellosis vaccination and testing, bovine tuberculosis testing, brand inspection certificates, etc. So to give further detail, the Merck plan must describe the recipient's approach to increase and track the utilization of electronically searchable ECVI systems by accredited veterinarians. So that is very important. And once again, recipients can see the ADT Workbook Quarterly Reporting tabs for reporting these categories, which you can see on the screen here, which includes reporting the number of ECVIs issued per species covered under ADT, the number of Category 2 accredited veterinarians using ECVIs, and a listing of the ECVI applications utilized by accredited veterinarians within the state. So this next slide is the fifth activity, which is outreach. So implementation of an outreach plan for the recipient's approach, including timelines and goals, is vital to support ADT. Recipients should focus on outreach events with stakeholders that demonstrate the value of ADT, including understanding of electronic animal ID, PREM ID, timelines, regulations, and exercises or demonstrations of real-world scenarios. Recipients are encouraged to conduct tabletop exercises in cooperation with federal personnel and use models and resources provided by APHIS if at a time in the future those type of in-person exercises are practical again. And so once again, the recipients should see the ADT Workbook Quarterly Reporting tab for the reporting of all ADT outreach activities, and a screenshot of that chart is here. So the next slide is the sixth activity, which is compliance and enforcement. So high compliance with traceability regulations is also critical to achieve optimum tracing capabilities. So while APHIS is the lead on the regulations defined in 9 CFR Part 86, the traceability rule, recipients are encouraged to work cooperatively with federal resources on activities that will support compliance with and enforcement of ADT, particularly when the state has regulations that align with the federal regulations. So the recipient, in collaboration with the AVIC, should document processes to examine and report compliance with ADT requirements and enforcement actions taken for both official identification and interstate movement as defined in 9 CFR Part 86. To avoid duplication of reporting, the state should provide their AVIC with counts of enforcement activities, which the AVIC can be used to augment the quarterly enforcement action summary report. So also ensuring that accredited veterinarians and other tag managers that acquire official identification directly from manufacturers keep accurate records of tags distributed and applied is a high priority, and so recipients should document the efforts that they are undertaking to ensure compliance with this requirement. The next slide is the ADT detailed financial plan. So recipients are required to submit an ADT detailed financial plan. The financial plan Excel template can be found in Appendix 7 of the guide. And recipients should use that template to document planned expenditures that support their work plan. And work plans that are submitted without a completed ADT financial plan Excel template will be returned to the recipient for completion before that plan can be considered. The next slide is about the program manager checklist evaluation. And so the AVIC fills out the program manager checklist evaluation form, which is submitted to ADT staff along with the recipient's work plan. So the AVIC confirms first that all the required criteria are met in the recipient's work plan. And then they go ahead and review the items that are on this checklist evaluation. So first, they look at a history of accomplishment. So has the recipient successfully met the goals and objectives from prior years? They also look to confirm that the recipient's roadmap is current, and roadmaps must be updated every 3 years. So for FY21, anything dated 2018 or earlier would need to be updated this year. And then lastly, the ABIC reviews the 6 activities that I just covered in this presentation. And then they provide a score between 0 to 10 for each of these areas that is submitted to ADT staff along with the work plan. And that is the final slide. So that concludes the FY 2021 ADT Cooperative Agreement webinar training. Hope that this has been helpful. And certainly if you have any questions or comments, please go ahead and email traceability@usda.gov. And thank you for joining me today.